So today I want to talk about the things that go wrong in our lives and how we need to try and assess them in a relative way, so we can truly kind of see the wood from the trees. I know this is a little bit of a lengthy intro, but hopefully it will make sense. Trust me on that. Keep on watching, keep on listening. Hope you find it useful. Welcome back to consecutive day 1718 of a diary of a runpreneur. Today's topic is all about the things that go wrong in our lives and how they can kind of become all encompassing, that we're so fixated on the things that are going wrong that we can't see the wood from the trees. I've got a little kind of process that I go through for when situations like this happen, to dissect them, to try and enable you to see the wood from the trees, or get some clarity on the situation and see what the future can potentially be. But before we go into that, don't forget this is part of a fundraiser saving the lives of children by attempting the ultimate ultramarathon of run vlogging on consecutive days distance of a lap of the world, barefoot style. And please give it some support, because the more people we get in front of, more money we raise, more children's lives we save, which is why I do this every single day. So back to the topic at hand. So we are full, life is full of problems, challenges, obstacles, and they come in all different shapes and sizes. And usually, because we are also consumed within our own lives, that we think whatever we're going through is the worst thing ever. And what other people, until you kind of put some perspective around it, sometimes you don't actually realise that the stuff you're going through really isn't that bad. I'm not saying that that's the situation for everybody, but I'll kind of go through my kind of process of understanding, how I kind of quantify things in my life. And maybe you find it useful, maybe you don't, but it certainly helps me put some perspective. Now, I'm not one for comparing apples and pears, because obviously how we handle things can be very different. The impact of a certain area of our life on somebody can be very different to how it affects somebody else. But I think sometimes there's if you put a bit of logic to the situation, it can help us understand. And I think when we understand, we can process things. Quite often, a lot of worry, anxiety, overwhelm comes from a lack of understanding. And actually, if we can get an understanding and some clarity, it can make things seem, or it makes things a little bit better. So anyway, I've waffled on and long enough about that. So what do I do when things go wrong in my life? Things go wrong in my life just as much as they probably go wrong in everybody else's life. Now, invariably, you get some people that have less things that go wrong in their life, and you get some people that you think are cursed. They have so many things go wrong in their lives. But in actual fact, you could be that person who's cursed, but you've got so many things that are going wrong in such a menial way or insignificant way that person is actually better off than the person who gets very little that goes wrong in their lives. But when they do get something go wrong, it's serious, of a higher echelon of issue. And it's actually like you could be better off being the one who's potentially cursed. So let me kind of break this down to you, what I mean. Well, everything falls within the 7 areas of life. Now, this is kind of what's been categorised by Dr. John Demartini, and in his Values Factor book. It's something that I've drawn upon in so many ways, in so many cases over the years. And what do I mean by this? Well, the 7 value areas in life, in no particular order, because that's the beauty of them. They're equally weighted, but it's just that each of us, in terms of what we value and how we are as people, value things in certain different ways. So this is very unique to everybody, but they are, within their own right, equally weighted. So I'm just going past someone a minute, so just let me get past this person and I'll go into this in a little bit more detail. I've got a dog as well, it might be attacking me, so hopefully it doesn't. So 7 value areas of life, in no particular order, are vocational, familial, financial, mental, physical, spiritual, and social. So what do they kind of mean? Hopefully some of them are pretty self-explanatory, but vocational is your career, your business, that side of things. Familial is your family. Financial is your financial situation. Mental is your mental health, or things that affect you mentally. Physical is things that affect you physically, so your physical health and that side of things. Spiritual is your faith, your belief, your purpose. And social is social interaction, friendships, relationships, hobbies, sports, all these types of things. So they're the kind of 7 value areas of life. Now, whatever you are facing in your life that you think is bad is going to fall within one of those categories. Sometimes you may feel that they would fall into multiple categories, but usually it's going to be predominantly one of those categories. Now, what do I mean by, in this instance, I said they're equally weighted in the value areas of life, but I think when things go horribly wrong, and if we use extreme situations, I think there are definitely certain categories or value areas of life that are worse than others. So for me, the one that would be the worst case situation would be familial. Anybody who is close to you from a family perspective. I'm just going past some people, so just bear with me a second, I'll continue this on. Evening. And yeah, it's one of those where familiar would be the one that would hurt me the most. If anything was happening to my loved ones, my nearest and dearest, it would rip me apart, and would I ever be able to recover? I don't know. The next one would be, for me, physical. Or mental, however you want to look at it. But I think if your health, basically, some would argue that mental health related diseases, things like dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, these types of things, Parkinson's probably less so. Parkinson's probably a bit of a hybrid between both mental and physical, but you'll get my point. There are diseases that affect the brain and the mind, and there are diseases that affect the physical human body. And I think anything that has that much of an adverse effect on you is pretty catastrophic, because it's health related, and people will you only get one set of health metrics. If it's something that's terminal or incurable, that's pretty difficult to overcome. I'm not saying it's impossible to overcome, but it's difficult. You've then got, people might put spiritual up there, but the others will kind of fall kind of close together in a category. You've almost got, for me, familiar would be the number one, but some people would put their actual health higher than their family. It depends on your situation. Family would be the highest for me. Mental and physical areas of life would then come a close second. And I think a lot of people have stresses and pressures that come from kind of their social circles, their careers or businesses, their personal finance. Finance is a massive one, which causes huge strain and pressure on people. So you've got those kind of 3 areas there. At the top, what am I missing? I'm trying to think of the one that I'm missing. I said social, vocational, financial, and spiritual. Yeah, and spiritual. I think those 4 would kind of be similar in third place for me. And that's how I look at things. So quite often, a lot, not always, but I generally see a higher frequency of issues for people falling in the bottom 4 categories. So spiritual, this is for me, by the way, it could be a different prioritization for you, but this is just a method that can help you understand the severity. And sometimes, social issues with friend circles and things like that, or it could be something that affect your faith, your purpose, that could be a massive one. Your religion, it could be spiritual, that could be a big one as well. But and then you've got your career, your business could be going under, your personal financial situation. But those 4, they're normally exaggerated, because ultimately, if you've got your family and everybody's healthy, they're, for me, the non-negotiables. Everything else around that I can come back from. Those 3 areas at the top, and you can get minor issues within family and physical and mental health, which I'm not kind of stating a catastrophic like what I'm talking about here, but I'm just trying to give you a hierarchy which enables me to ascertain how bad things really are, because you can get absolute catastrophic ones in the bottom 4 areas, and in most situations, there's always kind of, exceptions to the rule, but in most situations, all the others you can kind of recover from. If you get something catastrophic with your family, catastrophic with your physical or mental health, it's tough. Really, I'm not saying it's impossible, but there's very few people who can really come back from those. And that comes down to mindset and personality and all those side of things. But the bottom four, even if the kind of worst case situation happens, there's usually a way back. If you've got your family and everyone's health is okay. They're kind of the non-negotiables for me. And sometimes it's quite often, when you look at kind of things like, and even familial, I'm talking kind of more about your kind of children. I'm not saying separation from partners, spouses, or all these types of things are particularly easy, but you can recover from those. It's things that happen to your children that I'm referring more to from a familial perspective. And what I mean here is that it's a pretty doom and gloom episode, to be honest with you. And I'm not being disrespectful to anybody, because it's all relative to how we feel. But sometimes having a logical hierarchy of how bad stuff can really be and putting it into some kind of perspective allows you to see that actually this is bad, but it's not actually that bad. When you start comparing things, I only say that because recently I've been, people kind of within my circle or networks have been kind of experiencing health related issues, or having family members with health related issues, and these are really kind of jolt you into, wow, that I can't imagine what that person must be going through. Whereas a lot of the stuff in the kind of bottom level of value areas where issues can have impact on you, like I've discussed, those issues are not anywhere near as bad as what other people experience. And I'm not saying you compare, but I'm saying having a logical framework or model or prioritization that allows you to kind of understand. It allows you to think, well, actually, yes, this is bad. I'm not trying to devalue it, but it's not as bad as it potentially could be. And you know what? I can recover from this. I think just being able to say that is a huge mindset shift in overcoming whatever you're facing in your lives. So we just get past these people again, and I'll do the learnings from my diary to hopefully summarize this episode in some capacity. Let's get past this individual. Of course, cold today. So the learnings from my diary today are that no matter what's going on in your life, we all face problems. I think that's a key, okay? Now, problems can fall into the 7 different value areas of life. In no particular order, you've got vocational, familial, financial, physical, mental, spiritual, and social. Now, I categorise things into 3 different levels of a problem. If a problem affects my family, and predominantly I'm talking mainly about my children in this section, that's my number 1. Second is physical, mental, which is health, mental health, physical health, okay, of me. That's me personally. All the health and side of things of your family is in the familial section. And then the other 4 categories, financial, spiritual, vocational, and social, are level 3. And I normally find, or I see in life, most people, when they're stressing or dealing with pressures in life, a lot of the time, the majority of the issues are residing in those bottom 4 categories. But I have this prioritising metric because it allows me to see the wood from the trees. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur with multiple businesses, and I've been through many ups and downs over my journey. And when things go wrong, you think everything in your world is going wrong. But in actual fact, if you've got your health and your family, for me, they're the most important things to me. It might not be for everybody. What I'm actually dealing with isn't that bad when I put that kind of perspective around it. And the point of this episode today is for those people who are struggling, and there's so many people I know personally who are going through really tough times, and some people are dealing with stuff that's really difficult to come back. But the reality is, if it's anything in your lower level hierarchy, understanding this, it's much easier to kind of fight back. Whereas if it's in your top level hierarchy of areas of life, it's much more challenging to come back. But that's not to say you can't come back. You just need to be incredibly resilient from a mental perspective to be able to overcome that. And quite often I just try and take stock of how bad situations are in some kind of mechanism, and I've used the 7 value areas of life to do that. So I'm not sure if that's going to help a lot of you. It helps me no end. I think when you understand it, I think it will hopefully help you too. But that's ultimately it for me. Questions or comments, drop me a line. I'll respond to everyone. Please though, if you believe in my mission of saving the lives of children by attempting the ultimate ultramarathon of run vlogging on consecutive days, distance of a lap of the world, barefoot style, do give this a subscribe, share, like and comment. More people we get in front of, more money we raise, more children's lives we save, which is why I do this every single day. Thank you as always. Stay positive, stay happy, and I'll see you again tomorrow.